What's up guys, DRJ here, and today I'm reviewing for you Batman Arkham City. So, before I get into it, let me just say that I was really pumped to get this game. I loved Arkham Asylum. Totally picked up Arkham Asylum off of like a random suggestion from a friend, said it was a great game. I picked it up well after it was released. I think the reason why I bought it at all was because it was on sale on Steam for like $5 or $10. And anyway, so I bought that, and I mean, short version of it is I loved it. I think my one complaint about that game was essentially the fact that combat, when combat has a tendency to, Batman had a tendency to drop his combos randomly. Basically, ordinarily you move your thumbstick or you move your mouse and you attack and he launches over there. Well, sometimes even though you're in range, he just wouldn't move. Or you would try a ground and pound and you wouldn't do that either, or sometimes even miss a counter. Just bizarre and very, very frustrating, especially when you're doing challenges that depended on you obviously maintaining those combos throughout. Unfortunately, Arkham City actually does have the same glitch, bug, whatever you want to call it, which is very frustrating, but like I said, it really only rears its head in challenges, so not too big of a deal playing throughout the game. But that aside, let's get to the game. So, first and foremost, let's just talk about the graphics. Everybody's always interested in those. I played Arkham Asylum on PC, bought Arkham City for Xbox. Arkham City looks noticeably worse on Xbox as opposed to PC. The game looked, I thought, fantastic on PC when I played Arkham Asylum, but Arkham City was not impressive on console. Maybe just because I haven't played too many console games, but it definitely does not look like its former PC counterpart. Also, there is a small amount of screen tearing, but I think the biggest issue is that you get frame rate drops. They're not too frequent, but when they happen, they can cause you to do things like, once again, drop combos or just fucking die because you stuttered for several seconds and then somebody was firing at you throughout those several seconds. It's not a huge deal, but they're definitely there, and those issues are not on the PC. The controls of the game I actually thought worked pretty well. It took me quite a bit to get used to because, once again, I feel like everything is easier on a mouse and keyboard. But the controls work pretty well. There are a huge amount of button combinations as a result of having so many new moves, which I'll touch on it a little bit later. I actually had trouble getting my quick batarang, which is, quickly using the left trigger, I guess. And that's probably just something related to myself being more of a noob on the controller. I can't do that quickly. So oftentimes I'm triggering the aim feature as well, which the aim feature you hold it in, and to do a quick batarang in the middle of combat you just tap it, and I apparently have a hard time tapping it. The sound and voice acting, the sound is the sound. It does well. Nothing amazing, nothing standout. I think especially having played Resident Evil 4 like a week before, even watching my own videos on YouTube, that's funny. But the sound Jesus, the sound is a huge part of Resident Evil 4, and the regenerators or whatever the guys just saying their phrases in Spanish. It's very, very scary. It's very, very pronounced, very noticeable. They did a great job with sound Resident Evil 4. Not necessarily the case in Batman. The voice acting is alright. It's definitely sketchy in a few parts, and most of Batman's one-liners are pretty lame. They didn't really go out of their way to do some great comments there. Definitely doesn't remind me of, say, like Mass Effect style dialogue or anything like that. Pretty generic, pretty subpar, average, par is the right word. So let's talk about the gameplay. So Batman Arkham City, this is what I want you guys to really, if you get nothing else from this review, get this. Batman Arkham City almost feels like more of a spiritual successor to Batman Arkham Asylum. The games are distinct enough that they almost feel like they could have almost renamed Batman Arkham City anything else and it had worked just fine because they play so differently. I think I didn't like this. I think that some people might like it more than the first game. What Arkham Asylum did really well was it was a single-player game. It put you in the role of Batman. You worked as Batman, whatever, figuring out crime details, taking on bosses, tackling your way through the city. It felt like you were Batman. What Arkham City tried to do was it expanded the game, and now, I mean, like the title says, your battle is taking part all over the city, and part of that is traversing the city. But the gameplay itself, like the single player, the main story is very, very, very small percentage of the game. The vast majority of the game is side quests. So unfortunately, instead of taking the single player experience that was Arkham Asylum and transplanting that into the second game, plus adding content, they did not do that. What they did was they basically gutted the single player experience that you had in Arkham Asylum and replaced that with a whole lot of side quests and sort of like the free roaming, almost RPG style experience that is Arkham City. Like I said, the vast majority of the game is side quests. The single player is over very, very quickly. Actually, for myself, I would have been over with it much, much faster. I actually had a lot of difficulty trying to figure out how to get around from point A to point B. The map feature that you have doesn't always have a waypoint or where you need to go on it. And I was oftentimes, it was very, very, very basic. Maybe it was a door that for some reason wasn't illuminated in my detective vision, or I just flat out could not figure out what I was supposed to do. And keep in mind that oftentimes I was playing this on a live stream with anywhere from 150 to 250 people watching, and they couldn't figure it out either. So it wasn't just me, there were several hundred people who were also trying to guess at what I was supposed to do. And if somebody there in the stream, if there wasn't somebody there in the stream who had already played the game, oftentimes all of us were at a loss of where to go next. And it was very, very frustrating at times. Did not have that experience in Arkham Asylum. So let's talk about the combat. One of the ways that they differentiated themselves from Arkham Asylum is that, Arkham Asylum essentially gave you a few tools and was like, okay, we're giving you these base tools, figure out a way to make them work for a variety of situations. Well, the way that Arkham City has done it is they essentially have given you a tool for very, very unique and specific situations, and oftentimes you have a lot of overlap. So you can use your bat claw to pull a gun out of somebody's hand. You also have a smoke pellet to smoke cloud yourself and stop them from firing on you. You also have like a device that you can upgrade to disable guns at range. You also have a special move that breaks a gun from somebody's hand, and that's just for guns. You have a new amount of moves in the game, and I think, I don't know, like I said, I'm trying to struggle to feel like if this is just myself or if other people might feel differently. But me personally, I didn't really like that choice, because once again it just seemed to add to the elements that, like I said, I didn't necessarily feel as though I was Batman so much. I loved that I did have to adapt to the situations and make use of the tools I did have. Not to mention, it is a little overwhelming having that many different combinations of moves to do, and I made it through the entire game using most of them maybe one time. Many of them I had to go out of my way to learn and figure out and understand exactly how they worked, because it's not obvious. The blade takedown, for one. The description is a little off from, I think, what you actually have to do with it. It says to hold a button down, and anyway, you really don't hold it down. You press it and let it go. It's I don't know. It's a little confusing to me. Maybe it's just because I'm not a console guy, but there's a lot of moves there. The majority of them are never ever used or used rarely. The same maneuvers that you can use, same maneuvers that do work well in the first game work just as well in this game. Like I said, the game also has a tendency to drop your combos. Not too much of an issue in a single player game, just because most of the time there's not enough guys to be racking up combos much higher than, say, 50. I think I did hit 50 a few times. I might have gone above that once or twice, but for the most part, the combat sequences are short and they're spread out, so you're not going to be chaining these huge long combos, so it's not as much of an issue. Boss fights, wow. So I was definitely not impressed with the boss fights here. I know that Arkham Asylum actually took some flack for the boss fights, and I didn't actually think that the boss fights were that bad in Arkham Asylum. I thought that they could have done more with them, and I would have liked to have seen them done more in Arkham City, but I didn't feel like the boss fights were necessarily the main or the key component or the big draw to Arkham Asylum. I just felt like the game as a whole was. And like I said, I think that they could have done more with them, but overall I wasn't left with a bad taste in my mouth with the boss fights in Arkham Asylum. but the boss fights in Arkham City were dumbed down much more so than the ones were in Arkham Asylum. I think I one-shot all the bosses, figuring them out on the fly, and I didn't do that actually in Arkham Asylum. So it was a little odd, a little strange. Thought they were kind of silly, kind of a joke. I was surprised at how easy most of them were. I'm going to play through again on a harder setting for YouTube, so we'll see if I still feel that way. Let's see. I did boss fights. Challenges. So, my favorite challenge, and the only challenge I actually consider worth my time in Arkham Asylum, was the Totally Insane challenge, which is you put in a room with a whole bunch of guys, and you're just left there to figure out what is the best way to fight 4 million fucking guys coming at you indefinitely, and essentially when you get hit is when you're done. And the goal of it is to essentially chain the biggest combo you possibly can. So unfortunately the Totally Insane challenge, which was that challenge from Arkham Asylum, is not there in Arkham City. I know a lot of people do like the challenges they have now, and they have added a lot of features to help you out with that. You can like make your own modifiers and things like that. But I feel like the other challenges that are there are about, to me they feel like Tetris, where you figure out what works, and then it's a challenge to figure out what you need to do and fit that into a frame that needs to be accomplished, and essentially, maxing your variations and your gadgets and things like that. And I just don't care. I want to figure out what the most effective way is at beating ass and do it for as long as possible, and unfortunately that challenge isn't there, so which to me is actually really disappointing, because it's the one challenge I would have liked to have done. I think I'm still in the top 20 on Arkham Asylum, because I got a 300-point combo on there, which is almost ironic, because the single hardest part about getting a 300-point combo wasn't avoiding being hit. It was just hoping that the game randomly didn't drop your combo throughout your combo. I think I tried to beat that 300-point combo numerous times, and every time I got to like around 100, 150, it just kept dropping it. Batman would fail to connect with somebody, and it was just infuriating. So maybe that's why it's not there. Maybe it's because there's a couple new AoE moves, area of effect moves. I don't really know, but it's not there, which to me was kind of frustrating. So, overall, I think, Batman Arkham City is a good game. It was a fun game. I thought that I enjoyed Arkham Asylum more. They're definitely a different experience. If you're expecting the same experience from Arkham City that you did from Arkham Asylum, you're going to be disappointed. Overall, I think I'd have to give Arkham City probably like a 7 out of 10. And because it doesn't have that challenge that I'm interested in, I'll probably be selling it back soon. So, in my opinion, I don't know. If you really like the challenges, I would say pick it up. If not, and you're looking for more of an Arkham Asylum experience, maybe think about renting it, because like I said, the single player is very, very, very short. Anyway, that's what I did on that. If you have any questions, comments, critiques, criticism, whatever, let me know, and I'll do my best to answer your guys' questions.